This video was released alongside my review and tweaking test for the Intel Compute Stick, so be sure to check that for more information on the hardware I was using. Half-Life 2 was a gaming milestone for many reasons, and its technical advances led to an entire generation worth of classic games. And given its age and extreme level of optimization, you will be hard-pressed to find a computer that has a hard time running this game. I picked up an Intel Atom-based Intel Compute Stick in hopes of using something weak enough to give the game a hard time, and yet with the lowest settings, the game managed to pull between 40 and 60 FPS on some of the most intense sequences, and that is on 720p. But given the type of thing I do on this channel, I could not help but wonder what's the lowest Half-Life 2 can possibly go, and just how much performance will that get us on this tiny computer? Well, get yourself a drink and some popcorn because this might be the most in-depth video I have ever made. Half-Life 2, as the mother of search engine games, has a command line that can be assigned to a button and opened in-game, and through it we can modify or remove a lot of things in real time. To make those changes permanent, these commands can be written in a configuration file. To do this, go to the installation directory of the game, HL2 and CFG, and in here create a file called autoexec.cfg. The CFG I will be using is in the description, but I'm going to tell you about some of the most interesting commands. Let's begin. In order for some of these commands to work to their highest level, or just to work at all, cheats must be enabled, which is done with sbcheats1. The rlod command controls the distance on which elements and modules are loaded on the lowest level to preserve performance. Switching it to 8 simply causes all lowest modules to load at all times. This group of decal commands disables all types of decals, so effects like bullet holes and so on completely disappear. mat.dx level 70 controls the DirectX version that the game will use. The 70 forces the game to run on DirectX 7 mode, which will likely provide the best performance possible on older computers. mat.picmip controls texture detail. The lower the better, and 4 is the lowest possible. R-Water Draw Reflection 0 and R-Water Draw Refraction 0 disables reflections and refractions on the water. R-Shadows disables all shadows in the game. Glorious. Matte Filter Texture 0 disables the filtering that the game uses to make the textures look uniform, so textures will look a bit more blocky. Matte Filter Light Map 0 does the same for light, so light effects over surfaces will look pretty blocky as well. Matte Show Low Res Image 1 forces the game to use the lowest resolution textures for everything. This is when you truly are in the most desperate of positions. You can use R-Eyes to disable eyes on the characters completely. And while you're at it, you can use R-Teeth 0 to disable character teeth. I told you we were going in deep. CL Eject Brass 0 makes the brass that is ejected every time you fire a gun disappear. Muzzle Flash Lights 0 disable the lights the gun emits when firing. Props Break Max Pieces 0 and Props Break Max Pieces per frame 0 causes breakable objects to not leave any remains and simply disappear. R3D Sky 0 and R-Draw Skybox 0 disable the sky. Yes, the sky. There will be no skybox and elements will simply ghost all over the screen. R-Dynamic 0, R-Dynamic Lighting 0 and R-Max D-Lights 0 disable dynamic lighting. Since this might make the game a little bit too dark to be playable, you can then use Matte Full Bright 1 to make sure everything is light up to the maximum level. You can use CL Detail Dist 0 to disable things like grass, and CL Show Splashes 0 to disable water splashes. And those are just the most important commands. You will also find in the description a short file with a small explanation of what other commands in the configuration file do. If the game does not load the commands by default, you can simply use autoexec to load them all. I decided to use all of these commands at the same time, and in the same intense sequences, the game was reaching over 140 FPS. Even if the game becomes a bit of an amusing glitch fest where you cannot grasp the true form of the sky and the water is invisible. And yes, well, this makes the game unrecognizable. In fact, it looks a little bit more like an indie experimental shooter than Half-Life. With different combinations of these commands, you can likely get the game to perform well on some really weak computers. So, give it a try and use some of these commands if you're feeling desperate of playing this game on anything. Let me know if you have any questions.